My 22M stepmother, 37F, tried seducing me while my dad, 45M, was away for business, and now my dad believes I was the one that tried to seduce her. Hey everyone. I think this situation requires a decent amount of background information, so please be patient with me as I try to describe my current dilemma. There is a too long didn't read at the bottom, but yeah, there are so many different things going on. Everything happened within the last couple of days, and I have been trying to figure out a solution for myself, but I've decided I need some old-fashioned advice from Reddit. So here we go. To start with the background, I'm a current university student, with plans to graduate at the end of this semester. My degree is pretty useless by itself though, so I've lined up a plan to start attending graduate school next year. I have been fortunate to get through most of college with little to no debt, and my dad has some money set aside for my graduate school studies. This will come up later. I live pretty independently from my dad and stepmom, as the university I attend is not in my hometown. Plus, I do have a decent relationship with my father, but he always seems to be away on business trips. As for my stepmother, I'm pretty sure she's never liked me. I just pretty much avoid her as much as possible. So I'll start getting into the juice of the story. I never really have been too interested in women in a sexual sense. I suppose I've been too busy with my academics and work. However, I was recently talking with one of my best friends, and I was beginning to think about asking out a girl in one of my classes. For the sake of the story, she'll be called Abby. Abby and I actually have some history, as we were coincidentally next door neighbors in our childhood neighborhood. However, my family ended up hating her family. I was too young at the time to understand what was going on, but apparently Abby's older brothers were always getting on my dad's nerves. Think they broke one of our house's windows while playing baseball, were generally loud, and they always scooped their dog's crap from their yard into ours. Me, being a little 7-year-old, didn't really care at all, but my dad's still bitter. Anyways, all this to say I ended up asking out Abby, and we ended up setting up a time for studying together. It's probably no big deal, but I'm excited. So now imagine me a couple of days ago having a great time, high off the fact that I was actually successful for once, when I got myself into this terrible situation. I suppose my first mistake was coming home for the weekend. As usual, my dad was not present when I came home for the weekend, so it was just my stepmom and me. We usually just avoid each other as much as possible because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure she hates me for whatever reason. This time, however, she tried starting up a conversation with me. It started with talking about my dad. She was complaining about how he's gone all the time, and how it must be hard for me to have to live without a real father figure. Considering this is the topic she decides to start with for a conversation, I know I'm about to get into some dangerous waters, but I guess I was naive in thinking that the situation wouldn't worsen. I know my dad isn't great, but I generally have confidence in him, plus he helps pay for my education. My stepmother then mentioned how she sees a lot of features in me that resemble my father, which, to be fair, we look fairly similar. Maybe she was just tired of her husband not being around, and she was trying to see him in me. I don't know, but it just keeps getting worse. My sanity and normal life could still be salvaged at this point if the conversation would have ended, but of course not. That would be too easy, right? I should just leave because she's a creep. But no, apparently, she wanted to clarify what she was saying. She started rambling on about how she often wonders what would have happened if she and I had met instead of her marrying my father. Like, what? I need to get out of there ASAP, but here's where the biggest problem is. In trying to understand what she was saying, I must have accidentally blushed or something. She is quite attractive, but I respect my father and would never think about hooking up with his wife. Surely my stepmother would stay faithful to my dad too, right? Right? No. She started to go in for a kiss, but I quickly pushed her away and made it clear that I was not interested. I started grabbing my things so I could leave and go back to my university apartment, and she kept rambling on. Of course, after trying to make a move on me like that, she was pretty devastated with the aftermath. I went back to my apartment, and honestly, I figured I should continue on with my studies. have an awesome date with Abby, and go on with my life while avoiding my stepmom as much as possible. In hindsight, perhaps I should have taken a more proactive approach in solving the problem with my stepmother, but I guess I was shell-shocked. Anyways, fast forward to yesterday when I received a call from my dad. He was at home for once, which is super unfortunate timing. Let me tell you, he was absolutely fuming. He yelled about some disgrace and lack of trust in me, and then it all started to make sense. My stepmother must have flipped the script on me before I told my father about her trying to seduce me. I tried to plead my case, but his anger just kept spewing out of my phone. I even tried to tell him about Abby, but he didn't believe me. So this is where I need help. My father says he's going to stop helping me pay for university, and he's basically cutting me off. He's never been a fantastic guy, but he is successful in his career, and it has been nice not to worry too much about going into massive amounts of debt. I don't know what to do. I never had a great relationship with my stepmother to begin with, but now that's absolutely fricked. Now my dad pretty much hates me as well, solely because he believes his wife over me. It would be great if I could fix this all and pin the situation back on my stepmother somehow, but I'm just not sure he will ever trust me again. So there's a lot going on in my life right now, and I just don't know what to do. I've got my studies to worry about, a first date, family issues, all within the stresses caused by a pandemic. I just feel royally screwed regardless, but hey, at least I have a date to look forward to. Do you think there is any way to fix any of these relationships? What should I do moving forward? Too long didn't read. I have a first ever date set up. My stepmother tried to seduce me, and my father thinks I'm the one that flirted with my stepmother. My dad is taking away financial support from me, and I feel totally screwed. There's just a lot going on, and I want to know if it's possible to salvage any of these relationships or make things right. Debt for your education sucks, but it's not about that. Your father believed her straight off and didn't even ask your side. Do not touch a single red cent from him no matter what now. Tell him that's not the man you raised me to be. You want to believe her, that's your choice. I'll live my own life. The moment you threatened to cut me off is the moment I decided I don't want your help any longer. I have too much self-respect for that. That's really well said. I think this is a good mindset for me to have, because even if my dad ever believes me, I will be hurt by his initial reaction. Thanks for the advice. I thought two things after reading this. 1. She might have done it on purpose just to put a stop in your relationship with your father. 2. She did it so she would give her version before you had a chance to tell your father about what she did. If it's number 2, she's probably used to cheat on her partners and probably will cheat on your father, or she's doing it already since he travels a lot. If money isn't an issue, you could hire a pie to check on her. Speaking more realistically, you should tell your father your side of the story and plant the seed about her being a cheater. Maybe he'll try to check it out and find something that proves you right. Also, by telling her piece before she took control of the narrative. That's what lots of narcissistic people do. If I were you, I'd tell my side of the story before all your relatives start to believe in hers. Yeah, it was my mistake not to tell my dad sooner, but it very well could have been part of her plan. I definitely will continue to try to tell my side of the story, at least while there is still some hope of changing my dad's mind. Personally, I would send your dad a written letter, email or snail mail, but if snail mail, send it to his work so stepmom can't intercept it, and explain that you don't expect him to believe you but that it was stepmom who made advances towards you, and use actual quotes of things she said, that you got freaked out, told her no, and left immediately, and that, while you don't expect it to change his mind, you wanted him to know the truth about the person he is married to so that he can be on his guard, because she will probably do something similar with someone else, if she hasn't already done so in the past. Also tell him that he is free to cut you off, but he needs to understand that it is a one-and deal. If he cuts you off now, he is not allowed to ever attempt to contact you in the future when she cheats on him with other people and he realizes that you were the one telling the truth in this matter, because he either believes you now or he forfeits all right to a relationship with you in future. In other words, tell him the truth and warn him that cutting you off now is a permanent, irreversible action. Thanks for the advice. I'm not a fan of the irreversibility nature of this situation, but I think it's just part of how severe the problem is. It's hard for me to think of other realistic options. This seems like a pretty tricky situation. You say that you have always had an okay relationship with your father, though the fact he trusts his wife says otherwise. I mean, I am trying to imagine if I came home from a trip to find out that my son hit on my wife. If my wife told me of the situation first, I might initially curse my son and stick with my woman. The fact that she told her side of the story first is important. Do you think it is worth trying to salvage these relationships? Are there any other people that can vouch for you? I mean, I always thought my father and I were cool with each other. Guess I just don't know him as well as I would like, considering he's usually gone. I see what you mean, but obviously it's upsetting for me. I guess I could have my father could try talking to some of my friends, or I could ask some of my stepmom's friends if they have any idea why she tried pulling this with me, but that would still be her word against mine. Try to set up your evil stepmother. Get a voice recorder and either confront her live or on the phone. She may be stupid enough to brag about how she screwed you up and that you should have known better and gone with the flow. My F18 friend, M19, was raped by a police officer, M30s, he met online. He's too scared to go to the police. How do I help him? We live in the UK. He is gay, but isn't out. He met a guy online who he really fancied. He told him he was a police officer and that he was going to wear his uniform for the first time they have sex. My friend told me about this at the time and I didn't think anything bad from it. He's a virgin and liked men in uniform, so I was supportive of him for exploring his sexuality. The guy he was talking to was older, sure, but age gap relationships are nothing new in this day and age. My friend met him at a hotel. He had planned to go there to lose his virginity and was really excited for all the stuff he was promised over texts. When he met him at the hotel, he was raped there though. He was crying and told me that he kept asking for it to stop, but he wouldn't. He also has bruises around his neck from where he was choked. I told him he needs to go to the police, but he's terrified in case the guy works there. I think it's possible he might be terrified of all police now. I tried asking him if he would go to a different city police station to report it, but he's so scared of running into him there, so he won't do it. Another reason he told me is that he is scared of how people would see him in his family. He told me his parents would hate him if they knew he was gay. I need to help him. How do I do it? Can't just call the police to come to my house when he's over because he's terrified of talking to them. He told me if I went behind his back and called the police, our friendship would be over. I don't want this man to get away with how he's hurt my best friend though. He hasn't been sleeping, eating or looking after himself since the attack. Throughout the day he's randomly breaking down into tears. It's heartbreaking to watch him struggle so much. Please give me advice. It's like if I even bring up anything police related, he panics and wants to get as far away as possible. If I can't get him to go to the police, how else can I help him? Reporting rape can be extremely traumatic to the survivors, and that's just when their rapist wasn't someone who belongs to the people you are reporting them to. So, instead of doing that at the moment, I would urge him to consider getting into therapy. One who specializes in victims of sexual abuse and violence. I understand your desire that you don't want this man to get away with what he did to your friend, and he shouldn't. But your friend needs to get to a point where he feels strong enough to be able to handle it first. I think the UK has an online/phone hotline service for people of sexual violence to use. He might want to start there. My BF has a Minecraft GF on a server I play on too, and I feel like it's stupid to feel upset. Basically my BF and I play MC together on a server that we have been on since it was first made. When it first opened, we became friends with the people who started on day one with us. People tend to come and go, but there's still a group of us who have been playing on the server often enough to befriend. There's a girl, Chloe, who has basically captured the hearts of all the guys on the server. My BF describes her as super sweet, and he is always talking about the new cool things she's building. They are friends on Discord together as well. Well, basically, how it started, but they started calling each other Minecraft BF and GF even though I play on the server whenever he does. He always asks her to TP and give advice and see what she thinks on our home building plans, and he gives her stuff for free that we could be selling in our shop. I wanted to start selling enchantment books, but he says we can't because she is already selling them. I will spend an hour mining and he will just give her what I've mined because we had excess. I stopped playing to eat dinner and I came back and she was giving him a tour of her newest build and it just has really gotten under my skin. It feels so stupid because she's on the other side of the world and he doesn't talk to her outside of Minecraft. But I feel completely secondhand to this girl sometimes. I left to go to bed the other night and he was still playing and I noticed he was typing a lot, so I asked him if he was talking to Chloe and he said yes, and I half jokingly asked if she was a good replacement for me in Minecraft and he said yay. Then he immediately said I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And I said it's okay and we went to bed. Then TMW morning he's back at it with the infatuation of her. It sucks but it's also so stupid of a thing for me to care about. Edit. I would also like to add that we are in our 20s and this is why I feel like it's stupid for me to get upset. We aren't teenagers anymore, and yet I feel like the jealous/dramatic teenage girl right now. Over a video game for Pete's sake. He's also added that he's not going to run away with her or anything when I mentioned him spending a lot of his time with her, and I know he couldn't/wouldn't, so I feel even more silly for letting this get under my skin. Edit 2. Thank you all for all of the really great advice. I feel overwhelmingly validated and a lot better about how I feel now. I haven't responded to every single one of the hundreds of comments, but my upvotes are there and I'll try to work through them. I talked with my BF and told him that it hurt me that he referred to this girl as his Minecraft GF and spent so much time with her. He responded by saying she was the only one on the server who bothered to take the time and come look at our builds. He mentioned some of our other friends on the server and how he used to ask them to come check it out but they would always ignore. I told him that I feel replaced when I leave and he's spending every second with her. He jokingly asked if I would rather have him spend every second with her when I'm still there. Then I gave him a blank "that's not that funny" stare and he took my hand and said he understands what I'm saying and he's sorry. Today he suggested us taking a break from the game to do something together, and he said I will be his only MCGF moving forward. So I suppose it's all worked out. We'll see how it plays out in game. D.